All right,
Mr. Chair, I have only one correction. You spelled my name wrong in the attendees, but you got me right in the internal part of it, but I'm okay.
Is that on the minutes, Bryn?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of you. My apologies.
Not a problem. So if there are no changes to the agenda, I think we can proceed. Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Bryn, do you have a suggested change for the minutes?
I'd just like to become Bryn instead of Brian. Brian is my son.
All right. Well, are there any other comments or suggestions for the minutes? All right, I'm not hearing any. So is there a motion to approve the minutes and changing Brian?
So moved. This is Judith.
Thank you, Judith.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second,
Bryn
Mrs.
with-
Bryn.
Bryn with the second. I think we will still have to do a roll call vote because we have so many people online. So Jessica, if you do a roll call vote on the minutes, please.
Johannes Chiwena.
Aye.
Dale Decker.
Aye.
Rebecca Espada.
Should I go ahead and say?
Yes.
I know I'm gonna stay on from.
Judith Cooper.
Yes.
Deborah Moore.
Yes.
Yashoda Naidu.
Yes.
Chair Adasco.
Yes.
Carlos Romero.
Yes.
Mathis Shinnick.
Yes.
Bryn Davis.
Yes.
Commissioner Crunk.
Yes.
Paul Espinoza. Director Gallup.
Yes.
Secretary Nyer.
Yes.
Director Trapp.
Yes.
Senator Hamblin. Alex Greenberg.
Yes.
Carl Adams.
Yes.
Carla Kugler.
Yes.
Ashley Long. Kelly Roper Orr.
Yes.
Secretary John Clark. Camila Martinez and Artesino Romero.
All right, and with that, the minutes are approved. Moving on to the next item, approval of the 2024-2027 state plan. Secretary?
Yeah, well, thank you all for participating. It's such a really detailed and meaningful level in putting together the state plan. Obviously, what you have in front of you is just a sort of the big highlights in the strategic plan, but hopefully you all got a chance to look at the, what are we at, 400 page? So
422.
422 page state plan document. Special shout out, Amber, thank you so much for the really great contributions from HEB and Title II. I think what we ended up with is a really, really robust plan. There's no resemblance to the plans of the past, and I say that in the best possible way. And as I've gone through, the state, gone through the session and all that stuff, talking to people, they're really hear back so many of the ideas that made it into the plan, and people are, I think we've reached the point where we got the big container right, and so like there's a lot of work ahead here, but really, really happy with where we turned out here. So I'll leave it to you, Chair, if you'd like me to walk through at a high level or whatever the board would find helpful.
Yeah, I guess hit some of the high level stuff.
Sure, okay, great. Well, I'll just walk through this document that you have in front of you. So the vision and mission we talked about a lot, so I won't spend a lot of time on it except to say that like the goals, this was something that really evolved through the course of community and input from all of our WIOA partners. And so I think we managed in sort of one sentence to capture what used to be a half a page sort of laundry list in a really succinct and meaningful way. And so our hope is that, we'll sort of center ourselves in this vision and all the work we do going forward. And then the goals, so goal 1, it has been around since the beginning, and that is really about meeting the core needs of New Mexico from a workforce perspective. Whether that is, we talk about the safety, health, and well-being of New Mexican families and the modernization of New Mexico's infrastructure. And that is different types of industries that include healthcare, behavioral healthcare, construction, architecture and engineering, all of those things that I think we all know in our daily lives we need more of in this state, but have never actually been in the plan. And what I do like to remind people is we actually do get measured. I'm looking at my monitor, my regional folks, we do get measured on how many people we send into the priority areas that we identify in the plan. And so I think this will really sort of unshackle us from getting people into these fields that we know that we need in this state. And then moving on to goal 2, this one changed a lot over the course of the process. So this is about building and empowering the workforce to thrive in the face of changes to the state and national economy and the way we work. So this is about some of those future-looking industries like aerospace and bioscience, but it's also about getting people ready for the way we work, for remote work, for artificial intelligence, for all those things that we heard about from some of the delayed presentations about, 65% of the jobs that are going to exist in 30 years don't exist today, and how do we as a workforce system get people ready for that? That's what's embodied in goal 2. And then goal 3 really addresses this concern that we hear again every corner of the state: increasing labor force participation rate, getting people out of the stands and into the game of our labor force here in New Mexico, by really focusing on some of our more disengaged populations. And goal 4 is attracting the out-of-state workers. And that was a brand new one that came up through the course of conversation. We know that we lost about 30,000 workers between 2010 and 2020 in the state. We know that we need them to come back in order to increase labor force participation. The state has finally moved into net population gain in the past 2 years for the first time in a long, long time. And so we want to, use our system and our powers to sort of support that. And then moving into the strategies and those sorts of things. I think a lot of this is really built around collaboration, and a lot of what happened in the regional meetings was people learning about our system, where even people who have been in the system for 20 years, learning about resources that we have, learning how disconnected we are from the business community and how they really don't know nearly as much as we'd like them to know about our services. And so cross goal strategy 1 is, developing our sector strategies. And we are going to be sort of developing a template for this. So our first sector that we're working on is broadband. And we had our first, we talked to the local area executive directors, and they all kind of agreed that broadband was really suitable for a statewide strategy as opposed to having each local area roll out its own strategy. And so we were able to, I think it was December 15th, we had our first sector convening with the help of the Office of Broadband and Access and Expansion, and had a bunch of employers in the room, had a bunch of folks who do that type of work, linemen to people on the higher tech end of that industry. And we will be working on a report. I think the next meeting of that working group is February 27th. So we are working on a report that goes through all the priority occupations and crosswalks them to the educational programs that we have in the state. So through that work, we're really doing the things that are under the strategy in terms of understanding what makes a sector strategy work, what makes it effective, what makes it a good use of business people's time, what we should do behind the scenes before and after. We also did a baby sector strategy up in the Four Corners related to the displaced workers up there. So this one is actually moving right along, and this is going to be one of the ones that we really are going to look to the board to help us engage the right people as we move through each of these sector strategies, whether that happens at the state or the local level. Cross-school strategy 2 is about coordinating with education and training providers to create these flexible pathways. And if you're paying attention to the session at all, you know there's a lot of attention being paid to that, being paid to short-term credentialing and industry recognized certifications, hopefully some big money coming to HED to provide funding for that, those items that are left out of the opportunity scholarship because they're non-credit bearing. And so, you know, I think that's really what the second one is about, and lots and lots of encouragement on this one as we talk to people across the state. And then cross-goal strategy 3 is really about the youth and working more in the middle and high schools to engage that population in the priority sectors that we've identified. And this was one of the areas where in the regional meetings, when we were putting up the little stickies of all the programs, I mean, you see the list here, there's just so many great programs here, but connecting the dots is really a big piece of our work. And then cross-goal strategy 4 is the outreach efforts about incentives and programs to employers. We really need to do a better job reaching, connecting our employers to all of these fabulous resources. And then we go into the strategies that are specific to each goal, and I won't sort of read through all of these, but we go through healthcare, we go through early childhood education and care. We're partnering really well with the early childhood education and care department. They're excited to start some internships, so that's moving along. First responders, we have our first firefighter pre-apprentices in Albuquerque. They're doing a pilot project for us where they're doing a pre-apprenticeship. They'll leave with their EMT basic and they'll leave with hours of experience and hopefully with a passion for that career where we desperately need people. If it's successful, we'll roll it out statewide because I don't think there's a fire department in the state that isn't looking for more people, including, you know, the feds and the wildland jumpers and all that good stuff. Vertical and horizontal construction, of course, be pro, be proud, and all the other works we're doing with the business, the building trades and apprenticeships. Another exciting thing coming out of the session is it looks like we're going to get some good investment in an expendable fund to increase the amount of resources that we give to apprenticeship programs across the state, both building trades and all the other ones. So that's been really exciting. Broadband I talked about, and then water infrastructure and natural resource management. You know, our friends in that world are very excited to really get to work and understanding what that workforce needs to look like. Under goal 2, you know, we're looking at the energy transition items and strategy 1, and then the foundational skills initiative to really help people get those durable, foundational, whatever we want to call them, uniquely human skills, and bring that back to the forefront of what we're doing in workforce readiness, because we know no matter how much technology changes, people still need to solve problems. They need to work with each other. They need empathy. These are the things that they'll never replace humans with those skills. And then in strategy 3 is really focused on the rural, low income and vulnerable populations. And I really want to highlight the rural piece. That was something that came out really clearly in our regional sessions was, you know, it's a different strategy. It's a different set of work. Even when we're talking about AI or, you know, advanced technology, how that looks in the rural space is very different. And we need to really put some attention there. So that's strategy 3. And then of course the Energy Tech Hub initiative, now we didn't get that money. But I almost struck out the assuming work is funded because I think that there's a lot of things that those folks are continuing to work on. We continue to support their grant proposals. So I think there's still a lot of momentum. And then strategy 5 is partnering with Needs-Based Nexus, and thank you so much, Mathis, for that connection. And pathways to the stars for aerospace, and then really expanding JTIC. JTIC currently excludes agricultural workers and other areas that we could probably expand to. Moving on to goal 3. Again, it's really about making our services easier to access, easier to connect the dots among all of the WIOA titles. And then there's some policy items in here, expanding opportunities for English language learners and some navigation tools that we think would be helpful. And on to 4 is moving on to goal 4 strategies. This is where we're talking about promoting New Mexico as a great place to live and work. Excited to say we have our first baby step in this direction with the Children, Youth and Families Department. They have some money in the current year budget to do outreach and recruiting, and so they partnered with us through an MOU, and thanks to Michelle and team who've been working on that. To go target a couple of states that have a high concentration of social work and law schools in other cities, and with a combination package of, here's why it's great to work for the CYFD and for the state, and here's why it's great to live in New Mexico, and specifically rural New Mexico, where they're desperate for that type of workforce. And so we'll see if it works, and that'll be another sort of pilot program towards implementing some of these strategies and advertising hot jobs out in the state. A lot of this stuff is, in this one, I feel like it's low hanging fruit that our locals are really excited to work on. And then last, but probably most important, are the alignment strategies. And this is all about our workforce system, the titles, everything working better together through improved communication and collaboration. And this is the area under which our aligned case management efforts fall. And so we were lucky to get some money and technical assistance from the National Association of State Workforce Agencies to develop and to go through the Aligned Case Management Institute, and some of our partners were part of that. And they came out with some great recommendations, both people and processes and technology, that we can begin to implement to really flesh out these alignment strategies. And then strengthening this board right here by improving committee structure and really giving you staff support that I think we're probably prepared to talk a little more about whenever the time is right, Mr. Chair, for each committee, and really empowering you to do the work that WIOA envisions the state board doing with support and understanding how busy and all the other commitments that you all have. And then improving services to the employer community by streamlining communication. I think it was you, Mr. Chair, who said, when we were talking about case management, you were saying, I think we almost need a case manager for our businesses, because there are so many different programs that it's hard for especially a small business owner to engage in. That's really was the sort of birth of that alignment strategy. And then there's the aligned case management again. And then last is aligning, collaborating to make sure that our field offices, we can continue to maintain and also contain costs, because we have our friends here from Denny. That's really become one of our mall offices in the field. It is a good looking office. It's easy, it's an accessible office. It's got room for all the things that need to happen there. Every other state that we know of, certainly in the region, is contracting their in-person resources. And I think what we heard loud and clear is that's not New Mexico. New Mexico, we need more in person. We need to be in more communities. We need to be doing more face-to-face, because that's the difference between us and Indeed.com. That's the difference between us and any other thing that you can do on the internet. So that was a lot of me talking. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer questions and would love to hear everything you all have to say about the plan.
I've got a quick question. The recommended changes from higher ed, is that already in the plan, or is that a change that we need to make?
I think the changes we need to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be an amendment. We'd include that in the approval.
Yeah, when we approve it, yeah, thank you for highlighting that. So you have a multicolored piece of paper with some great additions that we got from higher ed. And I think, we don't have to be as formal as we would with like a rule or something like that. We can just acknowledge, take a minute to read through these items. And Amber, did you want to talk about it?
Sure, I can do that. And the reason that we didn't include these in our edits to the state plan was because these were edits to other sections that weren't under our, responsibility. So we wanted to make sure to check it with the board before we continue. So you'll see, it looks like this. So the first comment, this is from our deputy secretary of the CFD. And you'll see that A has yellow highlighting, and she's highlighted fallen in the text on the first page, and she's asking for just a transition sentence because it's unclear that we're moving from higher ed stats to K-12 stats. So my recommendation is just, one sentence that, or, you know, a really in a positive that says, in the public, K through 12 education system, comma, the state's graduation rates. So I've got it written down here. Oh, sorry, yes.
Board member with the question.
Oh, what was that?
Yes, Brent.
So two items. One is I think this is a very well put together plan. And when I say that, from the public and board, if you guys don't go through it, I started like page 90 or 89 or whatever in there, but it really tells you how I call it the sausage is made. It is a pretty comprehensive document, which is great to see. My question is, I know that I think this was open for public comment as well as comment from the I'll call it the various internal parts of the government. Did we receive any notable public comment in this process?
No, Member Davis, we did not receive any public comment from the public.
I guess in a way that's a shame, but again, it is a terribly well-written plan with a lot of detail, and it is a handy thing for people unfamiliar with how things go. It's a good thing to read. That's the only question I have, and thank you for the hard work on this.
Thanks, Brent. Really quick, kind of what I'm imagining is we'll do a motion, which I'm assuming will include this language. And then we can jump into any questions or comments for staff, and then move on from there. So Amber, if you could just do like a really brief.
So brief, okay.
Yeah.
So, just briefly, you all can see there are a few additions we've suggested. One of them is in blue down here, in the middle of the first page. I just skipped over, in green, Deputy Secretary, KEO has outlined, ethnicity categories and then asked if there could be a footnote or information, or is there somewhere that says where this, information is coming from. Right, because right now it feels decontextualized, so if there might be some citations we could add, we'd appreciate that. The paragraph in blue, we request adding, as it involves Title II data. I have one sentence to add in section 2, exhibit 18, that highlights, this puts, starting in 2020, the first year of the pandemic, it puts NMHED in, you know, it kind of gives a partial picture. And so we're suggesting an additional line that gives a little more context for the things that we're doing now. You know, the things have changed a lot in higher ed since 2020. And then adding higher education to the comment in blue. And we are not going to update the organizational chart. So that's all.
Okay.
Okay, so I can get with Jessica and give her the actual language that I have in front of me, but it would just be in line with the comments that are there.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to approve the state plan, taking into account comments and suggestions from HED? So moved. Thank you, Mathis. Is there a second?
Second, this is Judith.
Discussion. We've got Judith with a second, and then let's move on to any discussion, comments, questions. And I think, Mr. Traffic, you've got a.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that the motion to approve the state plan also authorize the executive committee to make technical changes and other minor adjustments that might be necessary prior to the submission of the state plan.
That's a very good suggestion. Mathis, are you okay with that suggestion? Yes. And Judith, are you also okay?
Yes, good suggestion.
Okay. So then we've got a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments on this 400-page document that is going to do the entire workforce college system? On page 128. And I think Kelly, yes.
Thank you. Just one comment. I really wanted to commend specifically on page 14, the reference to no health without mental health. Little biased here because construction figures show that our industry specifically is 4 times higher than the national average of suicides and 5 times greater than all other construction fatalities combined. So I just, I want to commend the entities that put a focus on mental health in the state plan this year. Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I want to commend Kelly, Carla, and all of our apprenticeship programs have really, I've noticed, started to make that a feature, make wellness a feature of your training programs for that industry for that reason. And I just love it. I mean, it feels like something that when I was growing up, you know, it was suck it up, buttercup, right? And now that whole attitude has shifted in the construction industry. Yeah. So thanks to you all.
Thank you for that comment, Kelly. Mathis.
So, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary, I did raise this at the UNM's Business and Startup Conference. Like I said, that the state workforce plan is out there, it's available for public comment. And other people came to me and asked, where could they find it? And Jessica was very helpful for me to be able to find where it was so that they could get to it. And a couple come back to me and say, wow, we didn't realize that there's so much work that's gone into this. I can't say any of them confirmed that they read all 420, but they got far enough into it that there was, that would name the name. There was some really interesting support to this. I guess none of them came back with the comments as we saw, but very pleased to see that interest.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And so, assuming this gets approved, we're going to take sort of this short version and pull some of the statistics and stuff that's in the workforce data section of the report, integrate that, and then make it pretty and make this a document that we can trot out to the world. And we'll put it on the website and all that stuff, but we wanted to make sure we got approval first.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Would the comment that Director Trapp made regarding process of making changes here and there as needed apply to any further guidance we get from the U.S. Office of Career and Technical and Adult Education regarding the Title II section of the plan? I ask because they've been continuing to roll out guidance, sometimes, you know, feel like maybe not in a timely manner. And, but we are really held to this plan for the next 4 years here in Title II. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about what the timeline is now. I mean, I know we're approving it now, but if something else comes up, what are my possibilities for making tweaks here and there to better align it with the requirements by the federal?
I would imagine that the executive committee could take any suggested changes.
Executive.
Yeah. With that language that Mr. Trout.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, there is also update process, you know, that we can do annually. We had similar concerns from the folks with the Perkins plan and primary, you know, and secondary education. We have the same concerns from DDR because their plan and their performance measures specifically are negotiated later. And so we've gotten assurance from our partners at USDOL that they know that the timing isn't all synced up for everybody to get their guidance at once, and they're open to those sort of rolling changes that we have.
Great, okay, that raised my concerns.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions? All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Brent.
I would say, and let's say if Director Trapp says I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I'll start with that. But I think when this goes to the executive committee, you guys are well positioned to, I'll say, make edits and corrections and all that. And I have full faith that if there's a material change to the document, you'll bring it back to the board. So I'm just saying I have confidence that we'll have a process to cover these things that incrementally happen over time.
Thank you, Brent. Yeah, I guess it would just depend on what is more feasible, the update process within the document itself or doing the executive committee. But yeah, we'll take it as it, we'll cross those bridges when they come.
I'm seeing something in the chat, it just disappeared too quick for me to.
Working on those, that's.
Okay.
Carl Adams is also having some technical difficulties, but he'll be logging off.
Okay. Any
I have-
other?
Sorry, one question from me. There was a section for workforce analysis where it talked about population estimates and the natural increases of births since 2017. I'm just curious, and I think that averaged out to about 15,000 some odd babies born every year. How does that, do we know how that compares to other states of equal size or a national average?
Does anybody here know? I think we'll have to get back to you on that, Kelly.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I'm just curious. We have a, sorry, go ahead, Dale.
Kelly, I think if you looked at the data, New Mexico still has more deaths than births. And the states surrounding us, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma even, they're still in the positive relative to births over deaths. So that's a huge issue for our state moving forward. It's good to hear that we've had some population growth, but during the pandemic and kind of after the Great Recession, we had tremendous outmigration of millennials, and they were taking their kids with them, which left us with a much older population. And that's kind of what's driving that statistic. I think those numbers, those lines crossed in 2019, and we're still at a deficit for growing naturally our population.
Thank you, Dale.
Is there a hand raised?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Trump.
just to further address Mr. Davis's comment, our various federal oversight agencies will require the different partners to likely make changes to our own portions of the state plan. Those are what I would consider to be technical changes or minor adjustments. I'm sure if there were any material changes, the board would have a special meeting to approve those, but I really don't foresee that happening.
Thank you.
Chair, we do have a hand raised, but it's in the audience, it's not the board.
Okay.
And I've asked a couple times and they're not responding.
Okay. Any other questions of the board, from the board? Or any suggestions, comments? I don't hear or see any. I just want to say I'm very happy with how the plan came out. During my years, I've seen a number of state plans from various areas come together, and this process has been just absolutely amazing. The amount of engagement around the state. We have such a large state, and to see you take everybody around the state to get engagement from those communities, that is very appreciative of. All of our partners, thank you for all of the hard work and input that you put into your sections of the plan. Thank you to this board for going to those meetings, those of you who could, giving up your time to provide input. And then all the communities that showed up. I think this process has been great. I really like the way the plan is structured. Those main goals, some of them are obvious, like preparing for future jobs, but I'm really happy to see us look to address labor force participation rates. That's a low hanging fruit that if we can just move it a little bit, it'll have a huge impact on our state, not just providing more workers, but helping lift people out of poverty by providing them gainful employment. I also really like to see us looking to recruit from other states, people. I've always thought New Mexico has great weather. Every February, I'm sitting on a patio, drinking a beer with my friends, wearing shorts. This is down in southern New Mexico, obviously. But I've always thought, people in the Midwest, they have to lock themselves up, 3-4 months out of the year because it's just too cold. If you could show them that image, I'm sure they'd move here. So I'm really happy to see this plan. I think there's a lot of great stuff in it. Like I said, I've seen a lot of plans, but I think this one is a really good one. So thank you everybody for all the hard work, especially the staff, secretary, thank you all. With that, we have a motion and a second. I think we can move on to the roll call vote, please.
Johannes Chiwano. I think he's having some technical difficulties. Dale Becker,
Yes.
Rebecca Estrada,
I just want to say it is an excellent plan, even though this may sound like it, abstain.
Judith Cooper,
Yes.
Deborah Moore,
Yes.
Yashoda Naidu,
Yes.
Chair Orozco,
Yes.
Carlos Romero,
Yes.
Nathaniel Shinnick,
Yes.
Bren Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Crump,
Yes.
Paul Espinosa. No, he was able to join. Amber Gallup,
Yes.
Secretary Niner,
Yes.
Director Track,
Yes.
Alexander Greenberg,
online
Yes.
setting also.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Carla Kugler,
Yes.
Kelly Ropeik Orr,
Yes.
and that concludes.
All right, with one abstention and the rest voting yes, the state plan is approved. Thank you much, and very much. All right, moving on to the next item, state policy agreements. Carla.
Okay, so, and then I'm gonna have to give a qualifying statement. I left my notes on my office. So I'm gonna have to rely on Greg and Bryn's memory and their notes as well for us. So there are several state policies that needed to be reviewed and approved by the board. So we actually have an ongoing calendar meeting. So for the next 4 months, right, I think we will be meeting and reviewing. So we kind of started with the most important ones that needed to be reviewed and accepted for the board. So these being the top, so just to skip over, well, I'll say weird. The state data validation policy, and this one, and again, I'll have to rely on Greg and Bryn's, because this one actually had the most changes recommended. So they're, in fact, so much that we're not gonna be able to actually have all of the changes. They weren't able to meet in time, because we just met last week. So we're gonna have a lot of changes coming towards the data validation policy. The other two much similar changes, the state performance negotiation policy. Of course, this is the policy on how the local boards are going to be set and adhered to for their metrics. And then how that gets negotiated every 2 years, and the policies, there's just some about 6 different factors, the indicators in which they need to adhere to, and then their adjusted levels of performance. One of the recommendation that it wasn't as clear as it needed to be, so there is an attachment that you see there that is the actual, where is it? The actual level of performance, so they they actually have some statistics to weigh into. Trying to think of any other changes that were on that policy specific.
While you look into that, I just want to remind the board, we had Department of Labor tell us that we need to, all of the state policies that we have previously have not been approved by the state board. And the Department of Labor wants us to approve all those, or at least have the state board approve that. Now, that's a pretty tall order. It's a lot of policies. That's a lot of reading in each policy. So the idea was to create a policy committee that would do a deep dive into these policies, get input from the stakeholders, kind of do all the hard work, and then come to the full board with recommended changes, and kind of give just a brief highlight overview, hey, this is what we think is the best direction. And the board, so just basically saving us from having to read all of those policies. And so that's what we're doing here today. And as Carlos said, we have to do all of them. So it's going to be a calendar of things coming forward. And so this is going to be something that we're going to be dealing with, moving forward. So just FYI, just a reminder to the board what we're doing.
And my understanding for today, right, so we will stay in compliance and do what the department really needed to is to request to accept the data validation policy. But being that in April, when we meet, we would actually have we actually changed one, but I guess to stay in compliance, and that's what we'll need to also accept it today. Because there, again, I was, to clarify, I didn't realize that we would accept it without making the changes that the policy committee recommended. But my understanding is that we have made recommendations for the policy, and then we would actually review and accept a new policy once those changes are being made.
Okay, so basically we'll see the data policy.
Again, yes, you can see it again in people.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Would acceptance today include this attachment? Of accepting the information within the attachment? If I'm thinking correctly, the attachment 1, calculation overall state indicator and program space.
Yes, there will be no changes to that. Those attachments are straight from the table and from regulations. So that was to support the policy, but that piece doesn't change at all.
Okay, and then and just if I can further ask, in the attachment, there's the first page, there's a table. It's got data for Title II AFLA. Is that from our state? It's pulled from our state.
That's the federal.
That's the federal one?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so this has got nothing to do with, it. It's just from, okay,
Correct.
all right, if that's the case, then no further questions.
Oh, Veronica, if you could.
And then I see. Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica Mosel. I'm with Department of Workforce Solutions. I am the WIOA program manager, and I am the supportive staff for the policy committee. So that's why I'm running up the board to card. So as Chair Roscoe said, we had our first policy committee meeting. We started with the 3 priority policies. There are a lot to review, so each time we meet, we'll probably be reviewing about anywhere from 3 to 4 policies. And just to help clarify the data validation policy, there were recommended changes to that policy that were made. They were the most minor changes that we could get done in time for today's meeting. But the other changes that are going to take a little bit more time, we can have those made in time for the April meeting. So what we're recommending is that the board approve this policy and just know that there will be a change 1 to the policy coming in April. And the other 2, all recommended changes were made. So those are good to know.
Okay. Mr. Trout, Greg, do you have?
Yes, I basically was gonna say much of what Veronica just said, in terms of what my understanding was. So the data validation policy was sent out to the board. I reviewed it very, very quickly, just to see if some of the changes that the committee had made were included, particularly the citations to the uniform guidance were updated, and they were. So the data validation does include some of the changes that the policy committee had recommended. It was sent to the board. If there are additional changes, these are living policies. They can always be updated as we go forward and identify additional changes that ought to be made. I think the data validation policy is quite good. I really commend the department for its work on it, and I think that this board can certainly approve it today and, make any additional changes that might be needed in the future.
Thank you for that comment. I think I see Carl Adams.
Yes, I have to drop off this call to have another meeting with my corporate office.
How are we with form?
We're still on call.
Okay. Thank you, Carl.
All right, thank you.
Carla, do you have anything else to add?
Brad, stop.
Hello? No, sir, I don't.
Okay. So.
So it's hand go up and come down.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure everybody has a chance to comment. I think to save a little time, if that's okay, we can wrap all these up in a single motion. Is that? I think we'll, just because roll call vote state. So is there a motion to approve?
I'd be glad to make the motion to approve the 3 policies as have been brought to the board, with the recognition that they could be revised in the future, as Director Trapp has indicated.
Thank you, Bryn, with the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mathis, for the second. Any questions or comments on these policies?
I just want to say thank you to the policy committee. I think we were transparent about how much work it was going to be when you signed up for the committee, but I know it's a slog and I just really appreciate it on behalf of the department. Thank you.
Yeah, I did that. I know it's a lot of work, so thank you. All right, anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just one further point, the fact that we make changes going forward is really a healthy thing. It's very common to identify new compliance needs that have to be addressed, so there's nothing wrong with having changes made in the future. It's actually a healthy, a good thing, a sign that we're paying attention to compliance.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. All right, well, let's move on to a roll call vote, please.
Johannes Chimwena. Daniel Becker,
Yes.
Rebecca Estrada. Yes. Judith Cooper,
Yes.
Deborah Moore,
Yes.
Yashoda Naidu,
Yes.
Chair Orozco,
Yes.
Carlos Romero,
Yes.
Mathis Shinnick,
Yes.
Bryn Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Crump,
Yes.
Director Gallup,
Yes.
Secretary Nair,
Yes.
Director Trapp,
Yes.
Mr. Adams just left, Carla Cooper,
Yes.
and Kelly Ropick Ford.
Yes.
Did you go, sorry, Alexander Greenberg? Oh, Alexander Greenberg, I apologize.
Yes.
All right, by unanimous vote, the policies are approved. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next item, the State Workforce Development Board retreat. I don't recall if I mentioned this at the full board, but I really wanted us to have some time to, rather than focus on the business of the board, kind of spend time on why we're here. Get some information on what does a board do, what is expected of us. I know some of that is in the bylaws, it's in, the regulations that, oversee what we do. But I don't know that anybody has time to really review the regs or to go through the bylaws. So I think it would be a good thing to kind of just go over, why does the board exist? I imagine it would be maybe a couple of hours long. what we are doing is we're looking at tying that with one of our regular board meetings. We were looking at doing it in conjunction with our meeting at Clovis for the youth conference, but I don't know if that's gonna work out. We may do it at the Albuquerque meeting. That has a couple advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages being it's Albuquerque, so it's easy for people to kind of get together there. The disadvantage is that's also the State Workforce Development Conference. So there's a lot going on for staff. But I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up. That's something that I'd like us to do. I don't want to do like trust falls or. Yeah, roll first might be fun. But I just wanted it as an opportunity to kind of, this is why we exist and what we are responsible for. And also an opportunity for us to kind of put our input in, what do we want to see as we continue moving forward. So just FYI, we're trying to still work that out. But those are the two key ones we're looking at. There's also Las Cruces.
I was gonna say, you keep talking about short weather, maybe in November, maybe we want to be in Las Cruces.
That's a good point, yeah. We can enjoy the short sweats down in.
But Lorenzo's to be able to.
I know, right? So we'll keep working and trying to figure out what is the best option for us. So just FYI, that's gonna be coming up. Okay, moving on to chair and board comments. Everybody, we've got the list of upcoming meetings. Another change, we're moving around the state. So I think that's nice. I take it as an opportunity to see different communities. It also allows different communities to more easily participate in our meetings. So Luna County, thank you for coming. Of course. But there will be another opportunity for the Cruces meeting, make it a little easier for you. So we'll be moving around the state. All right, any comments from the board this month?
I have one comment with regards to the schedule meeting dates. These are in fact the April, August, and November are 2024 and not 2023, right? It reflects 2023. I just want to make sure the 3rd, the 21st, and the 7th are the, in fact, correct dates.
Yes.
Thank
you for catching that, Kelly.
So is the only correction that it is for 2024 on that?
Yes. Second.
I just wanted to take this chance to introduce the board to our newest member of the DWS, Deputy Secretary Scott Kaginski. Sorry, here in the audience. I don't know if the camera can see you, or maybe we'll have you come stand behind Jessica, who sits got a nice clear view of her. Scott joins us from the governor's office, where he was an education policy advisor. And that's really the role that he's going to bring to our department. You know, we have not, in anyone's near memory, had an education policy expert in the Department of Workforce Solutions. And I think the plan really says how closely we should be working with higher ed, with community colleges, with our four-year institutions. And so we really see having Scott as a great opportunity to engage more with that world and you have your own language in that world, and someone who speaks that language is going to be really important. Some of the early things that Scott is working on include getting some common definitions on all the different work-based learning terms like internships, externships, residencies, all these things. And then understanding the funding landscape for that, first at the state level, and then we'll roll it out to other agencies of the state. And so that's the kind of work that we've just never had the resources to do in the department before. So we're really excited and just wanted to invite Scott to say a few words about himself.
Thank you, Secretary, Chair, and members of the board. Grateful for your introduction, Secretary Nair, and really happy to be here with the department and coordinating with Secretary and all of the other staff and leadership. And looking forward, as you said, to coordinating with other agencies around the state, especially within the education focus. My background, as Secretary Meyer said, is in education, early childhood. Was spent a lot of time in Washington D.C. as a senior staff of the U.S. House of Representatives Education and the Workforce Committee, worked for the U.S. Department of Education and other also the National Conference of State Legislatures. In addition to the year I spent at the governor's office here, also worked for the governor of Colorado doing the early childhood policy. So looking for those connections and working to advance the mission of the state's workforce policies. So I can help however I can.
Well, welcome and congratulations on the new position.
Thank you very much.
Let's see, I think, Dale? You have a comment?
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you. This is a question for Secretary Nair. Secretary, there's a new Paid Family Leave Act bill in front of the legislature, and I know that in the last session, and I haven't reviewed the current bill, so please forgive my ignorance here, but the previous bill had a pretty good role for the Department of Workforce Solutions to play in the implementation of that, as well as kind of the enforcement. Is that in the current version of the bill that's being put forward in the legislature? And what impacts, if it does get approved, and if, again, since I didn't read the bill, Workforce Solutions does have a role to play in that new act, how will it impact the Department of Workforce Solutions?
Thank you, Dale, for that question. So just for folks who might not be as familiar, there is a piece of legislation called the Paid Family and Medical Leave Act. It's been introduced in both the House and the Senate. It's House Bill 6, Senate Bill 3. It would provide basically an insurance system along with requiring businesses of all sizes to give up to 12 weeks of paid leave for bonding with the new child, either through birth or adoption or placement, for a serious medical condition that the employee has or that any family member of the employee has. It is, I would say, more expansive than federal FMLA, both in the circumstances that would lead to the leave, as well as it would apply to businesses of any size. The businesses with fewer than 5 employees do not pay in to the system, but other businesses and employees pay into the system at a rate of, I think it's basically $4 for every $1,000 the business pays in, and $5 for every $1,000 the employee pays in. And that goes payroll deductions into a newly established fund that is expected to land up around $400 million. And then that fund pays out people for their time taking this leave at a rate of 100% of your pay up to minimum wage, and then 66% of it above it to a cap. All kinds of intricacies within it, but that's the broad strokes. You're right, Dale, just like last year, the Department of Workforce Solutions would be the administrative agency. So we would be in charge of both the collection of the premium from employers and employees. Self-employed individuals can opt into the fund, as well as administering claims for the benefit, as well as approving. There's an ability for businesses to waive out if they have a substantially similar plan. We would be approving those waivers and doing appeals and claims of violations of the act. So we are estimating that it would be about the size of the unemployment insurance operation, 216 employees. We sit right around 650, so it would be increasing our department by about a third. With the startup costs are very significant, about $47 million, and then ongoing operating costs are about $23 million estimated, and would come out at all. That would come out of the fund. Some initial investment from the general fund would get repaid from the fund. It's a huge undertaking. It's been kicking around the legislature for many years now. As it's gotten closer and closer to passage, we've done more. And we talked extensively to Washington State, to Colorado that just started its program in November, to Connecticut, which has a different model of a program, but a lot of good lessons to learn. And yeah, it's gonna be a giant undertaking. I will probably never sleep again for the next 3 years. But it would not, I'm, you know, the optimistic side of me is saying that I don't think it would really affect this part of the department, because we would restructure it and probably put unemployment insurance in this program under a new sort of deputy secretary role, and keep Deputy Secretary Martinez, who's not allowed to retire, ever, even though he has years, keep him over the employment services and all the WIOA and the work that we do here together. So I would definitely, especially after all the work we just put into the state plan, one of my primary goals would be to manage the department so that it would not in any way hinder our ability to do this work. There will be a year-long rulemaking process if it passes, and that would be a highly stakeholder involved process. I think we would do something very similar to the state plan, in the sense of traveling around the state, getting input, making it workable. The Colorado people had a good phrase. They said we have to make sure it's a benefit and not a burden. This is supposed to be a benefit both to businesses who can't afford to pay leave right now and to employees, and so that's our mission if it passes. The bill will be heard on the House side in Commerce and Economic Development Committee tomorrow afternoon at 1:30. It will be heard on the Senate side next by Senate Finance, date to be determined. Last year it died in House Commerce. This year, if it dies there, it will keep moving on the other side of the House. So I do expect that it'll probably get to both floors one way or another. So if you have anything to say about it, good or bad, now's the time. The House Commerce members, of course, are available on the legislature's website, but we want to hear from folks. If it passes, we'll want to hear even more from folks. Any questions? Happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks, Secretary.
All right, Bryn.
Just a request, and maybe Carla can answer for me or whatever, but I would like if we could put a list or attach to one of these board packets, just a list of the policies that are getting reviewed. It is a fairly large slate, but what I would hope is that there may be someone on the board or representative that may see in one of these policies where they have some input for us to look at, because although Secretary and the rest of the board members as well are kind of involved in this, it's a big slate, and we could certainly use some eyes on some areas where it may be outside our, I'll call it our scale of experience and knowledge. So if we could get that attached, that would be handy, and then we could possibly solicit some help in specific policies.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Brian. So in case there's someone that, doesn't want to volunteer all of their time with the rest of us, but takes on a specific policy that they, I would be, I would welcome their input and insight. So yeah, we can get the list sent out to everybody.
Just to follow up on that comment, I went to the Mexico Tech Council, which has a policy committee. We can meet once a week. And they have a lobbyist that provides updates on proposals in front of the legislature that they look at from the kind of the business side, the technology side. Something like this we just discussed, the deadline that you sort of briefed us on is something that would be in there. I don't know, Carla, if that's a connection where what they are looking at. This is from the business engagement side, clearly I can be part of that. We can talk about that in terms of whether or not that be held to see what, because he puts out a list of all the Senate bills, all the House bills, and flags them as to relevance in a particular set of criteria. maybe we can look at that in terms of, criteria for us. It's very fancy and going after the start of the legislative session, but it's still, they find my best for purpose. They have to talk about that.
All right, think about this, and thank you, Brent, for your suggestion. Yes, sir.
So that reminds me that, the WIOA reauthorization bill is floating around Congress. It has gotten through the House, so there's a House version that is headed to the Senate. We can send out the link afterwards. I think I have some good summaries too that we get from our national organization. A lot of positive things in there, for the workforce system, additional flexibility, especially in the youth pot of money, and an ability to create sort of an innovation fund at the state level. I think it aligns really well with the things we've been talking about from our side, and I'll invite Director Gallup to talk about because she also provided comments. But our senators are very interested in hearing our thoughts on this, and we've been in communication with both of their offices. So do encourage you after we send it out to take a look and let us know if you have any other thoughts about the act, and happy to share those with our delegation. Did you want to add anything?
I'll just add that I think one of the most exciting things for us is that we're able to spend so much, much greater percentage of our funding on professional development, which I think is going to benefit the whole state as we, continue to improve the quality of service to learners.
All right, any other board comments? There is another note, keep on the lookout. I forget who. Veronica Robledo is going to be sending out an email to us. If you want to get per diem reimbursement for the travel, I think you need to sign, is it a W-4 form or? W-9. W-9 form, and turn that into the state. So just keep an eye out for that. I guess my final comments are, I think this is an exciting time for the state board. I think this plan is really kind of giving us some direction and some work that we can really bite into for the future. I'm really excited to see some of these changes. So again, thank you everybody for your hard work on this. It's very exciting, and I think it's a great plan. All right, let's move on to public comments. Do we have any public in attendance that would like to provide any comments? Yes, you could just state your name and.
I'm Christian Harvey. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Economic Development Nonprofit, along with Greater Lynn County Economic Opportunity Council. I represent Lynn County for economic development. So I'm here with Mike and Ginger. And I'd like to tell you all, while we haven't, at least I haven't, I don't know about the rest of you, read the 400 pages, but look at the synopsis for what you read over today. I want to congratulate you because it's very in-depth, which is refreshing because you have a big job and you have a lot to do in there. I'd also like to thank you for the comments about the Deming office and tell you how much we appreciate what you do. And please keep the continued focus on the development of continued education in the southern part of the state, particularly technical education. We, as a county, would like to continue partnering with you. We also partner with Western New Mexico University. There's plenty to be done there, and we do need your help. I think we all know it's one of the poorest places that we have. We have great potential down there. We have the only 24-hour port of entry, great opportunity and land for development. So you're keeping an eye on us and partnering with us, is very much appreciated. So thank you for the good work that you do.
Thank you for your comments. What about online? Do we have any comments online?
They won't be able to speak.
Okay. Can they raise their hand?
They can wait.
Okay. If you have a comment, raise your hand, and we can promote them if necessary, right? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All right. Well, let's move on then. Well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Great meeting. And we're ending a little early, so that's always nice. If there are no objections, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, bye.